Hey, what's up guys, Marcus here. You know, I had to wear my Man in Black hat for this one. Alright, the Westworld Season 2 ending explained from my perspective. Alright, so there are a couple of things we can jump into right away. I mean, the first one obviously is that last scene with William. WTF, like what happened there? I'm going to get into that. I'm going to give you my thought on that. And then also I'm going to talk about, like, you know, the whole Dolores, Hale, Bernard connection and where Westworld may go, like, in the future. But the first things first, you know, like, if you watch Westworld, you know that they use a lot to, like, flashbacks and jump arounds to kind of explain or give an interesting new way to tell the narrative of a story. Alright, so one of the hardest things for people when watching Westworld is obviously following the continuity. And the Hale-Dolores connection can be a little bit confusing, but there's one easy way to check, you know, like when Hale-Dolores came into the story. And that's just through the character Elsie. You see, Emily and Bernard had several adventures where she was helping him even though she realized he was a host and he was trying to, you know, get forged software out of his body. Now, when Dolores appears, and it's this big reveal in Season 2, Episode 10, you know, we're like, wow, when did this happen? But all you have to do is see the moment when Hale kills Elsie, that's when Dolores, that's when her timeline starts, because the real Hale was a villain. So the real Hale said, hey, you know, I looked at your profile, I know you're not the kind of person I can rely on, and she shoots Elsie in the chest, and Elsie dies. Now, when Bernard is talking about creating Hale's body, you'll see the real Hale smoking a cigarette and someone dumps Elsie's body in front of her. She motions for the guards to leave and then is approached by Dolores, who kills her. This is when Dolores takes her place. And that's when it starts. So if you don't want to get confused, that's exactly when Dolores came into the story, and she wasn't like running the show the whole time, which would be completely confusing. So another really interesting thing about, you know, Ford's master plan and how the game ends is, like, you know, some of the subtle things he says during the season. You know, he actually says to Mom when she's lying on the bed, and he just says to her, you know, I wish I could have let you walk out the way you wanted to. You know what I mean? Just open the gates for you. I think he's alluding to the fact that the way that he wanted the hosts to leave was as pearls, not in their host bodies, which have caused problems and they could be detected. And I think this really sets up the last scene with Dolores and Bernard, because Dolores figured out that, hey, you know, the way Ford wanted us to leave was not through some doorway or not through, you know, on the train or sneaking out. It was literally as pearls transported into the real world and recreated from the ground up. And I think this sets up so much interesting stuff for Season 3. Because again, like in another mind trip situation, the last scene between Bernard and Dolores actually was in the start of Season 2. Like in start of Season 2, Bernard is sitting down talking to Dolores about feeling like he woke up in an ocean surrounded by water, and Dolores is kind of like testing him for fidelity. This is the same room he's in at the end of Season 2, which I now realize is the building that Ford created for them to live in the real world. It's a mind trip. So what's gonna happen? Well, what we know is that because Dolores demonstrated that she can change, and they're basically trying to say that humans cannot change, she decided to let Bernard live and bring him into the real world because he's one of her kind, and there's only 3 of them. But she obviously has plans to destroy humanity and take it down, and she knows that Bernard is going to try and defeat her. And I think it's an interesting setup, because not only does Dolores have the information of the copied high level people that she can now replicate in the real world, and probably has already because we don't know how much time passed, but at the same time she has Hale's body with her, who is either like her clone, meaning she copied her own consciousness, which would create like very interesting drama, or it could be one of the other pearls that she put into their body. So it could be Teddy, it could be possibly Abernathy, or someone else that we don't know. I find this all very interesting, and it sets up like an amazing Season 3 because 2 things. One, we don't even know what point in the future they're in. When Bernard goes to the door and looks out into this new world, we have no idea how it looks. We're used to Westworld and a Western theme, and we're thinking the new world is our modern world, but it's probably even more futuristic than we realize, and that is also really awesome. Alright, so the next thing I want to talk about is Stubbs. You know, is Stubbs a host? I think he is, and here's why. Now, in Westworld so far, almost every single time a host has been revealed to us, they don't know their origin story. Like, they're asked a question, usually like, do you remember when you got to Westworld, or do you remember how long you've been here? And at that point, they usually can't remember, and they start freaking out, and then they're revealed as a host. Stubbs kind of gives himself away because he said to Dolores when she was trying to leave that, you know, he's like, when Ford hired me, oh, you know, so long ago now, I can't remember. He tasked me with one thing. And just him saying that, because he's a very young looking person, kind of says to me like he is most likely a host, because if he's a young man and he can't remember how long he's been in Westworld, and he probably has never left Westworld because he's always been there. And then the second thing now, you know, he even talks about his core drive and his purpose, and then Hilarious kind of smiles at him as he allows her to leave. And because Ford has tasked him to protect people in the park, which is one of his directives, it just all sounds like programming. But another nugget, which is also very interesting, is that the very first scene in season 2, episode 1, who is the first person to protect Bernard when he's on the beach? A bunch of security people are ready to shoot him, and you know, he says, hey, are you gonna shoot the boss? That's Stubbs. And I think it's like a nudge towards him protecting or doing his core directive to protect certain people based on Ford's directives for him as a host. I think that's his programming. And what's really interesting is the way that he and Bernard kind of, you know, like when you lift somebody up like off the ground, you tend to like hold him a certain way and probably hold his shoulder and raise him up. But he actually instead kind of sort of shakes his hand as if to say, I know who you are, without Bernard even knowing. Anyways, hope I'm not getting too deep there, but that's my Stubbs theory. Alright, so the scene, you know, the scene at the end with William, you know, definitely gonna deep dive into that now. You see, in season 2, Westworld has basically been doing this rolling commentary on humanity, choice, and consciousness. They've basically been asking the question, you know, do we have choice at all? And they made a statement of their own. You know, when Ben Barnes' character, who was represented as a system in the Forge, basically said that, you know, the hosts that the people that we're trying to copy went crazy because, you know, we made them too complex. In fact, humans are actually quite simple. And each human is broken down into 10,000 lines of code. So every human is an algorithm, right? So they basically said that humans cannot change their pathways. They're always going to do the same thing over and over, which is why they created the fidelity test in the beginning. I think this is what they're trying to demonstrate with William at the end of season 2, episode 10. Because William, unlike any other character in Westworld, is the most motivated character to find out what the meaning of it all is. He is the most committed, the most dangerous, and the most willing to sacrifice anything, including his daughter, to find out if he has free will and if he has choice. And I think at the end, when you show him in the, like, way in the future, you know, talking to a host copy of his daughter, it is basically pointing to what Ben Barnes' character said when he was a system. He said that James Dallas's character, you know, after being made 18 million times or somehow a million times, kept going back to the same place. He kept going back to the moment when he rejected his son when he needed him the most. And everything led to that point. And I think the same thing happened to William. I think, you know, he killed his daughter, realized that he was lost, and, you know, when they perfected the technology for him to be immortal, he could never pass his fidelity test because he'd always keep going back to the same place. He got stuck into the human algorithm and kept doing the same thing. And I think they're saying that to us through Westworld to demonstrate that even though he thought he had choice and, you know, he felt like he was so powerful and he did all these things, that at the end he really had no choice. Yeah, so what this means for William's character is that he probably will appear in season 3 in a very different capacity. But I think they were just kind of saying that, hey, the technology was made, but when it is made or when it will be made in the future, and William can be immortal, he will never pass fidelity because of that moment that he's locked into. Alright, hope you guys like this video. You know, leave your comments below, give me your theories, all this kind of stuff. I'm gonna try and make more videos like this in the future. I do love film and talking about it. I just don't know why I never did this on my channel before. So many things coming. Alright, bless up. Catch you next time.